Hey, Tim Engelsman here. And if you've seen the video on this YouTube channel of the Georgia Nine, I want to take a moment today to elaborate a little bit more on that story because it was an incredibly fun story, an incredibly fun hunt. And I actually have here the skull of that 9 point in my office. And man, this was just a thing of beauty for me to behold. My biggest buck ever was so much fun, and it all started with a conversation with a friend of mine from the church that I pastor. Um, he invited me to come down and go hunting at his house in Georgia. He owned a piece of property along a river and told me about the quality of bucks that he had behind his house. And I had shared with him that I hadn't quite broken that 8 point barrier yet. My largest seven, which I think you can see in the background there, is kind of that was my benchmark. That's where I had been, never killed anything bigger. And he said, "Well, why don't you come on down sometime?" You know, and I kind of just thought he was being polite. You know what I mean? And then when I turned 40, my wife gave me this gift of money and said, "Why don't you go on a hunting trip somewhere?" And I mean, that's my wife. That's just her heart. And so super excited about that. And was looking at all these different places that I could potentially hunt. It was just a lot of money. And then I remember the conversation I had with my friend from church, and I called him up and I said, "Hey man, how serious were you about that?" And he said, "I would love for you to come down." And so we set up a time in November, and I remember, I'd been practicing all summer long because I hurt my shoulder. I had to crank my bow way down, and finally I got it back to up to a poundage, about 65 pounds that I was comfortable shooting again. Worked really hard on it, practiced, and he invited me to come down in November. And the evening I left, it snowed, right? How often does it snow in Georgia? But the evening I left, there was a huge temperature drop. It snowed. I headed down with my Matthews Z7 Extreme and my climbing stand and all of my camo, those kinds of things, and went down that evening, arrived the night before. We put my climber up in the tree on his property, had dinner together, and the next morning he walked me out to the spot, and I climbed up in the tree and began to wait. And it was kind of funny because this was an urban hunting experience which I had never been on before, and he told me what was going to happen. He said, you're going to see people coming out of their houses, cars leaving, conversations. The leaf blowers are going to be going on the golf course and those kinds of things. But don't let that scare you. Don't let that worry you. These deer see that thing kind of thing all the time. And so when I got up in my climbing stand, as it began to get light, exactly like he said, those things started happening. I could hear voices, I could hear cars, I could hear the leaf blowers on the golf course. And I was just looking around, waiting, when all of a sudden I spied a doe kind of come out from, I think it was like some bamboo that was growing there. It just kind of came out of the woods, the thick stuff, and behind that came another doe, and behind that came another doe, and they kind of just kept looking back. You know what I mean? Deer do that sometimes. They look back. Usually that means something else is coming. And finally there was like three does out there. The last one looked back, and I remember seeing it. Just this big old rack come out of the woods. And he had cautioned me, don't just shoot some little basket type 8 point, wait for a big one. You've got a lot of potential back there to kill something really big. And, I didn't really have anything to go off of. I just saw this massive rat come out of the woods, biggest thing that I've ever had an opportunity to shoot at in my life. And he slowly came out following these does and just stepped past a tree right in front of me into my shooting lane. I didn't have to grunt. I didn't have to make a noise or anything. I drew back, put the pin on his shoulder, and when I shot him, I watched his whole side just turn red. And man, my heart just started to pump. I was filled with adrenaline and started to shake. And instead of texting my friend, I actually called him on the phone, 20 foot up in the climber, and I said, "Hey, I just shot the biggest buck of my life." It was all over in a matter of an hour. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And he said, "Well, are you cold?" And I said, "Not too bad." And he said, "Why don't you just hang on there, and I'll come down in a little bit, and we'll go track your deer together." And so that's what happened. And I got down. I watched a few more deer come in, and he came up in a side by side, and I climbed down, and we went and followed up on the deer, and it wasn't maybe 75, 100 yards, and we found that thing laying there.
So, all right, Tim, what do you think about that buck you just shot?
Man, I am so excited. That's the biggest buck of my life. About 80-30, he come through on a couple of does, 20 yards, right in the kill zone. Let's go take a look at him.
Okay.
Let's go take a look at him. He's had a great blood trail. So, right through here.
Okay.
Look at this sucker right here. Golly, look at him. Look at there. It's a 9 Bill. Look.
Oh, wow.
Just
look at that stud.
Just look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh,
nice job, Tim.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Man, nice shot right behind the shoulder.
Wow, that's perfect.
Just took him out.
Perfect.
Job well done. Job well
Way
done.
to go.
So,
happy for you. That's fantastic.
Absolutely a hunt of a lifetime. Incredible gift. So blessed. So thankful for my wife who saw fit to give me that gift. So thankful for my friend who allowed me to come out and hunt on his property in Georgia. And just so grateful and thankful to have that kind of an opportunity. So, I hope that for those of you who have been waiting for that big one, you don't give up. You keep going out there, keep getting out in the woods, and keep putting your time in. Because if you put your time in and you work hard and you build relationships with people and try to bless each other, at some point you're going to get that opportunity. So, that's the story of the Georgia 9.